I don't want to hide from them anymore. What do we do?
Are we not men?
Arcadian. So I was browsing Shudder for something to watch this week, and I found a few movies that I'm interested in, but I did end up seeing this new Nicolas Cage movie where he's given top billing. Online summary said it was similar to A Quiet Place 2, so I ultimately figured, why not? After the disappointment of Longlegs, which had a decent amount of Nick Cage acting, well, like only Nick Cage can, maybe it'd be nice to see a movie where he gets to shine a bit more in a lead role, and being similar to A Quiet Place, maybe this film would be scary, unlike Day One was. Jesus, watch my reviews for those. I saw that Arcadian was getting some decent reviews as well, so I turned it on to watch, and god damn it, I got bamboozled. Nick Cage is in the movie, even less than he is in Longlegs, and he isn't the focus at all. And this movie is barely anything like A Quiet Place as well, besides the setting, I guess. The movie ends up being a strange mix of teenage sibling drama wrapped up in a post-apocalyptic creature feature, and while the acting is relatively strong for the most part, and the creatures themselves look cool, the end product is underwhelming and feels like it's trying to say something without having the proper means to convey its message. So that's not fun. Let me break it down for you guys because there's a surprising amount to talk about here. Arcadian basically follows a father named Paul, 15 years after a pandemic wipes out most of the world and light-sensitive creatures arrive to attack the survivors at night. He scrounges by with his teenage sons, just trying to survive. When one son doesn't return home one night, Paul sets out to find him and ends up badly injured. The boys struggle to get along and care for their father while also attempting to guard their home against the creatures' onslaught. It's a decent enough premise, but really needed something else to refocus and push towards a more interesting outcome. The acting is fine, I guess. Nick Cage is okay as the father, Paul, but he's barely in the movie and does little besides teach the sons how to drive or look gruff and say a few sentences here or there. The rest of the movie, he's incapacitated and unconscious, so his inclusion ultimately feels unneeded. If you have Nick Cage, you should use Nick Cage. He's known for it. Even in bad movies, his mannerisms and over-the-top acting are the draw. Here he gets top billing, but he doesn't do anything. It's purely just to get his name in there. He's not John Krasinski's character from A Quiet Place, despite the writer clearly wanting to be in this story. Just, ugh. The older brother Thomas is played by Maxwell Jenkins, who did a fine enough job, I guess. He's a teen playing a teen, so it works pretty well, especially in regards to how willing he is to shirk responsibilities and run off to his girlfriend. He was the lead in that Netflix revival of Lost in Space too, so that's neat. His brother Joseph is played by Jaden Martell, who was ultimately just okay. I honestly didn't like him the most. I don't know what direction they were going for his character. He's very, very monotone and quiet, spending the entire movie mumbling to himself. It's weird. He's the quiet, sciencey nerd trope, focused on traps and strategy, which is like he's if Fred had no personality. If only he could speak up a bit more. And I know for sure that's a direction issue. He was Will in It Chapter 1, so you know he can be a great actor. I just don't know what the hell they were thinking here. And honestly, that's a big issue with a lot of this movie. The acting and the story decisions are just bizarre. There's this really weird exposition choice too, for example, where instead of showing the audience how the apocalypse happened, Thomas and his girlfriend play a game called Crap Apocalypse, where they recount the end of the world quickly and neither of their explanations make much sense.
Do you want to play Crappy Apocalypse? You have to explain what happened at the end of the world in 10 seconds. So,
10,
there was this bug,
9,
and it got this infection, and it bit tons of people, and they all got the infection too, and then
5,
they died, and the machines took over, and they took their
2,
advantage, and the only people that were left
1.
were us.
I get the point is to be ambiguous, which can work, but seeing the actual apocalypse, aside from the quick 1-minute opening, would have been so much better. Plus, their game doesn't make any sense. It is such a haphazardly created way to define what happened in this world, and it doesn't make any sense whatsoever, especially that these kids would be playing it. Like, I don't get the point of that. There's also this bizarre lilting piano score that sounds pretty, but it shows up at the weirdest times too, and it really takes me out of this movie. And I get the point of the song is to highlight the boys being kids or teenage love or family moments, because that's all nice and good. But it feels so out of place in this dingy, bug-ridden end of the world scenario. It felt so unserious to be added into this movie that takes itself way too seriously. It's such a weird dichotomy here. I do want to point out as well that even though I can't find an exact number, I do know that this movie was low budget. But was it so low budget that the filmmakers couldn't afford a Steadicam? That's right, the entire film feels like it was shot by a caffeine addict trying to operate a GoPro. Nearly every scene is shaky as all hell, even when nothing's going on, including the end credits. The end credits are shaky. Why? Oh my god, it's so weird. The only time the camera is stationary is in a couple of scenes where they clearly stuck the camera to the corner of a car the characters are in, or sat on a shelf or something. It's so painfully noticeable and really obnoxious when you're trying to watch it. It's just so weird. Stop shaking the camera. Even when nothing's going on, it doesn't build tension. It just looks like you don't know what you're doing. A lot of shots in this aren't lit very well either, taking place at night. So combine that with the shaking camera and you have a confusing visual mess for a lot of the action moments late in the movie, which is a real shame because that's where all the action is. That's where all the fun is. I can understand maybe not being able to afford to light areas well, but I feel like the Steadicam should have been a priority at the least. Come on. However, with all of that said, there are some golden points in that crap fire. There's a tremendous scene featuring a creature sticking its arm through a door that gives you one of the earliest looks at the monsters, and it's framed so well. And it's this genuinely tense moment, and I have no idea why the rest of the movie is not like this. It's bizarre. You get this really cool, really tense scene rather early on in the movie, and then the rest of the movie has nothing like it. I have no idea why this movie is just such a confusing mess of shot placements. I don't know if the cinematographer, Frank Mobilio, was going for a more rustic feel, but it just did not work out at all. He seems like he's got a lot of music video credits though, so I'm feeling like it was a stylistic choice that just didn't work out, which that sucks. Sorry. I will say though that the monsters themselves do look really damn cool. At first, anyway. It's half ruined later on in the movie when you see a group of them form this giant wheel that starts chasing people down, rolling over each other like a circus act. That is really weird and so cartoony that I'm just like, how am I supposed to take this seriously? And then later they start snapping their jaws ridiculously fast with a weird sound effect that also feels very cartoony. Again, cartoony in a very serious film. Maybe it is more similar to Longlegs than I thought. Either way, the monsters have a cool design regardless. I think they're a mix of CGI and practical, I'm not sure. The director, Benjamin Brewer, did do the special effects for Everything Everywhere All at Once, so that's cool at least. It's just, so many decisions in this movie annoy me. I guess overall it's a fine product. It is serviceable, I suppose, but the film feels like it speeds through all the interesting parts and then slows down for all the boring sibling rivalry parts that I don't care about. It wastes Nicolas Cage and is overall difficult to follow. It tries to be similar to A Quiet Place in setting and nothing else while being unique, but it also falls into familiar tropes scattered all over the genre. If I wanted to make this a better movie, I'd say the film needs a full rewrite. The premise is fine, the premise can work, but Nick Cage needs to have more of a role in this. The monsters definitely need to be more of a focus, and the boys need to work, I'd say more like Dipper and Mabel. They can have their differences, but they can't hate each other. It's not fun to watch them bicker and fight, especially when you know what's going to happen. They set up a decent enough conflict and stress between them, but ultimately it's never fully realized. It's just kind of dropped, and that's frustrating. I can see some more art house style people enjoying this movie for the stylistic choices, maybe, or those who want a decent enough thriller without the gore or actual frights, because this film is not scary at all, and there's very, very minimal gore. In fact, there's barely any makeup effects at all, aside from late in the movie and one particular scene with monsters about, but that's pretty much it. Otherwise, it's just people in farmhouses and farm clothes talking. So just go into this movie knowing that the film is full of shaky camera movements, can be admittedly hard to make out in general, and should probably be taken much less seriously than it wants to. If it's gonna do all that, it needs to lean into the camp, and this movie just doesn't. Go into it with all of that, and I feel like you'll probably have a decent enough time, maybe a good background movie. I don't know though, for me, it just doesn't work, and that's really, really annoying. So ultimately, Arcadian gets a 5 out of 10 from me. Hey guys, thanks for sticking around for another one. Ooh, it's been a long time since I've had a review this low. I think it was Moonfall last, but geez, I don't know what people were thinking and why critics gave this a favorable review is beyond me. I guess some of the acting is okay. I feel like maybe they're just watching Nick Cage, but he's barely in the movie anyway, and he doesn't do anything interesting. In fact, his last scene in this movie is also very, very dumb. There's so many weird dialogue choices all over the place. I don't understand what the director was thinking here, or the writer. It's a mess. If you want a good creature feature movie, there are so many out there. I will forever say watch Sweetheart. Sweetheart's amazing, but this movie doesn't do the creature feature movie staple of having the monster be metaphor, unless maybe I just didn't get it. This movie is already kind of confusing enough. The apocalypse doesn't make sense because you can kill these creatures very, very easily. They're not armored at all like the Death Angels in A Quiet Place. People just take them out with shovels, and they clearly can be shot and burned and everything too. So I don't understand how an apocalypse would have happened with these things. Maybe that's why they threw in the pandemic aspect, but that's never explored. Nobody gets sick in this movie. They just kind of talk about it. And there's these weird things with these bugs everywhere too, which also don't make any sense. I think maybe they're trying to set it up for a potential sequel where they can explore that bit more, but I really don't think we're gonna get a sequel. This was bad. Just all around bad. I don't know, maybe some people can have some fun with it. Did you guys like it? Let me know in the comments below if you understand it a bit more, because it's just so, have fun with that. Let me know. After that, don't forget to like the video, subscribe, ring that bell so you don't miss a video, and yeah, that's it. Have a great day, and if you're not, have a better one. See ya.
I'm just a ghost in your stereo, the fading memory of a shipwreck in the undertow. You're just a lost song, and I'm just a ghost in your stereo.